Hi, everybody. Today I want to take time to talk about repetition. So, repetition, why is it important? Why do we need to do it? Well, I just want to take a moment to share with you. Here's my disc. So, this sits in my car every single day. It's Earl Nightingale's The Strangest Secret. And so, for anybody that's new to personal development or new to this kind of thinking into results, sort of process of thinking, repetition is critical, especially if you're used to thinking, maybe a little bit negative, or you're not always focusing on your goals. Repetition is key. When you're reprogramming your subconscious mind, you want to use repetition, even consciously. How many times have you gone throughout the day and you're like, okay, I'm going to focus on my goal. And then all of a sudden somebody calls you or you get in a disagreement with someone and then you're right back into that negative thinking. Well, repetition truly is the key. And so again, if you're new to personal development and you're like, why do I need to listen to something? I don't know about you, but when I went to school, it was like the one and done. Read the book, regurgitate the information on the test, boom, done, move on to the next thing. Well, with repetition, when it comes to, manifestation, achieving our goals, and, moving into a new sort of thought process, repetition is truly important. So that's why I was sharing like Earl Nightingale's The Strangest Secret. I have it in my car. I listen to it on the way. I basically listen to it whenever I'm in the car. And I remember, just to share, when I was new and just starting on the thought journey and how to improve my life, when I got this disc, it sat for 3 months. I didn't listen to it. I didn't play it. If you're new and, we're starting to say you need to do repetition and you're like, why do I have to listen to this? What is the point? Well, the point is you're reprogramming. You're learning a new thought process, and it's not going to be a one and done. It's not. I mean, you look at Tiger Woods, you look at all the great athletes, did they learn how to be the best golfer in the entire universe by just swinging a club once? No, they did repetition. These are people that are highly disciplined, very skilled, and they did it over and over and over again. So when we're doing reprogramming and we're in personal development, we are going to have to listen to this over and over again. And I was guilty of it, 100%. Like I said, when I first got this disc, it sat on my dresser for like 3 months. I didn't even put it in my car. And I remember, when I first started listening to it, I was like, okay, I've listened to this. And then I started thinking about what I was going to have for lunch. What am I going to make for dinner? And, my mind just immediately started going way off on these tangents that had nothing to do with what Earl Nightingale was expressing of what I was listening to. But I did. I was persistent. I continued to listen. And every time I got in the car, instead of, putting on the radio or doing something, I really focused and I was disciplined, and I was like, no, I'm going to listen to what he has to say. He's ahead of me. He's doing what I want to do. I want to learn. And what am I wanting to learn? More awareness. I need to know more so that I can be more, do more, and have more. So, I've been listening to this disc for 6 years. And I remember people said to me, haven't you learned it yet? Didn't you get it? And I explained to them, I listen to it because every time I hear it, my awareness grows. And my understanding of what's being said on this disc, I start to get it. I internalize it. I start applying it to what I'm doing and what I'm focusing on and what I'm determined to achieve. And, I started, maybe 6 months into it, I had memorized it. And it's so funny because as I continued to memorize the words, again, I was thinking about that conversation that I didn't like that I had with someone. Or again, what do I need to go buy to cook for dinner? And again, not focusing on the disc. So I really noticed as I listened to this in my vehicle over and over and over again, I was starting to get the gift of awareness, where my mind was wandering, what I was thinking about, what was I distracted with, I am guilty of all all of these things. But what I will say that I did do is I was persistent and I was determined. And so month after month, year after year, I kept listening to the disc over and over and over again, and the repetition started to work. I remember I was sitting and I was listening to it and I was like, oh my gosh. I had this major aha moment and I was like, this is what I've been studying. This is what I wanted to learn. And it finally internalized. It finally, it was like this bolt of lightning that finally I had gotten it. And I was so excited. And then that gave me the positive feeling to continue to listen to it more and to find, those nuggets and become aware internally of what he was saying. And I have to say, the more I listened to it, I applied it to my goals. I applied it to, what I was working to manifest. And it started to make more sense. And it's funny because I don't know if you've ever read a book and, the first time you read it, you were like, oh, this, whatever, this was a great book. The second time you read it, you realized that you didn't notice it the first time. Same thing with watching a movie. You could watch the movie the first time. The second time you watched it, you noticed things that you didn't notice the first time. And so anyway, when I was listening to The Strangest Secret, which I do recommend, if you're in your vehicle, this is definitely one you want to listen to. And the more I listened to it, I gained greater awareness, better understanding, and I was able to start controlling my thoughts. So every time I listened to it and I noticed that I was, veering off and thinking about things, basically anything other than what was being said on the desk, it started training me to bring my mind back. And so even without really noticing, the more and more time, the more and more repetition, I brought my thoughts back. I brought my focus back. I committed and stayed persistent. I was determined. I gained greater awareness. And it was so funny because I had somebody come in my car and they're like, are you listening to that disc again? They're like, why do you keep listening to this over and over again? And so it was an excellent opportunity to have the conversation, about growing awareness. And it ended up moving into a conversation where I ended up gaining knowledge and had the most incredible conversation. So, I could go on about all these sports people. We know that sports people have incredible discipline and, they do what others are not willing to do, which is sometimes getting up at 4:30 in the morning. Tiger Woods talked about getting up and hitting golf balls for hours and hours and hours before anybody had even gotten up and got out of bed. So, if you're looking to gain greater awareness and you're wanting to, increase, your focus and your will, get a disc. If it isn't this one, if you don't want to listen to Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret, get something that you are inspired to listen to. Get something that is, helping you gain greater awareness and start to notice where your mind drifts off, where you start thinking about, basically anything other that's being said. Start to notice where your mind wanders and then start bringing it back and refocus again and, start keeping that persistence and retraining your mind to stay focused on what you're doing. And so I hope this gives you inspiration and helps you as you're going on your journey. And we look forward to seeing you again.